All right, all right. How's everybody doing today? Today is April 9th, 2024. And it's your boy, it's me, the Wood Dog, at just keeping it real. Because keeping it real is the only thing that I know how to do. I'm gonna breeze through this video today because I have a lot of information to get out. And we're gonna talk about two things today. We're gonna talk about the first thing we're going to talk about first, we're going to talk about the new Wayne County Sheriff candidate again, Mrs. Joan Merriweather, versus the current sheriff, that lying sheriff, that dishonest sheriff, Rafael Washington. Now, when you listen to what I got to say and look at the things that I'm going to show you today, it's going to help you make up your mind one way or the other on who you think should be the new Wayne County Sheriff at the end of 2024. The election for Wayne County Sheriff is the primary is in August. It'll be the first, like August 4th or August 5th. I believe that's the election for the primary for Wayne County Sheriff. Now, the general election will be that following November. So you have to break things down. But remember, get out and vote. Get out and vote. There's a lot of elections going on in August. They're going to be election for judges, the Wayne County Sheriff, and some city positions. But the main thing that I'm focusing on is the Wayne County Sheriff's office election that's taking place this August. So make sure that if you don't do nothing else, make sure you get out and vote because you can't complain about nothing or talk about nothing unless you get out and vote. That's very important. All right, here we go. I'm going to get right into it because I got a lot of information to cover. All right, the new candidate for Wayne County Sheriff, if you had to watch my video I did on the 20th of March, it covered the new candidate for sheriff, Mrs. Joan Merriweather. Like I said, you can like and subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up. You just type in "just keeping it real" at Wood Dog 4868 on the YouTube search engine. Just keeping it real at Wood Dog 4868. All right, here we go. Oh, you can also find this on Facebook as well, because I'll bump it over to Facebook. So you'll be able to check it out over there, this particular segment. All right, here we go. The current sheriff candidate, as I indicated in the video that I did on March 20th, was covering Mrs. Joan Merriweather. And I have a picture of Mrs. Joan Merriweather again. I'm going to show it to you. Mrs. Joan Merriweather. All right. Joan Merriweather, that's her website at the bottom. Check it out, Mrs. Joan Merriweather. And like I said, she was the first helicopter pilot in the state of Michigan and for the Detroit Police Department. This is her again, Mrs. Joan Merriweather. She's running for Wayne County Sheriff this August. Ladies, if you want to make a mark and you want to make history, you'll vote for the first female sheriff in Wayne County, Mrs. Joan Merriweather. This is a picture of Mrs. Joan Merriweather, the late great sheriff Benny Napoleon. I believe this was at a graduation ceremony when she was promoted from officer to supervisor, if I'm not mistaken. But she had a good relationship with Benny Napoleon because they were both Detroit police officers at one time, and they both retired from the Detroit Police Department. And Sheriff Benny Napoleon ran for sheriff, and he became the sheriff. And Joan Merriweather retired from the Detroit Police Department and became a officer and ultimately a sheriff supervisor before she retired from the Wayne County Sheriff. This is Mrs. Joan Merriweather. This is the picture again. She's in a helicopter flying around and somebody took a picture of it. And it's because she's a seasoned law enforcement professional. She can still fly a helicopter to this day. Now, I'm going to break it down for you, ladies. I'm going to read some things to you, and you're going to get a grip of this about why candidate Joan Merriweather should be the sheriff. As you know, last month was Women's Month. I say every month is Women's Month because we wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for a woman. So why can't a woman hold some of the same powerful positions in this nation, in this state, and in this county as men? Well, that's been changing lately because women are holding down some very influential positions in this state and in the county of Wayne. I'm gonna run down a few real quick. Jocelyn Benson, female Secretary of State. Crystal James, the first female university police chief of the University of Michigan. Uh, Patricia Frechard, she's the female chief judge of the Wayne County Third Circuit Court. Dana Nessel, state attorney general here in Michigan. Governor Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan. Michelle LaJoy Young, she's the sheriff in Kent County, Michigan. Chantel Jenkins, she's the CEO of the Warmth Fund in Michigan. Prosecutor Kim Worthy, female. Camilla Harris, Vice President of the United States. Former retired judge Vonda Evans. She is the owner and proprietor of the Vonda Law Firm. She sat on the bench for 22 years, if I believe, and I was her deputy off and on throughout the years in her courtroom. Excellent judge. She's handled some of the most influential cases in this county. Maureen Miller Bosman, mayor of Livonia. Gail McLeod, mayor of Allen Park. Kelly Garrett, female, mayor of Lathrop Village. Janice Winfrey, Detroit City Clerk. Mary Sheffield, Detroit City Council President. And Miss Alicia Bell, Wayne County Commission Chair President. Now, come on now. There is no reason why we in Wayne County cannot put a woman as sheriff in Wayne County. There's no reason why we can't do that. There is no reason why a woman can't do the job just as good as a man in Wayne County. This woman right here worked for 2 police departments. She rose up to the rank of supervisor in the sheriff's department, excuse me. And she's handling her business still. She's out here campaigning every day. And make sure that you go to her website and show her some support. Her website, once again, is on the bottom of this sheet. JoanForSheriff.com. Real easy. Joan, the number 4, Sheriff.com. All right, come on, ladies. If you want to make a mark in Wayne County, you will elect the first female in the history of Wayne County if you do that in August. Now, let me get to the meat and potatoes. She's running against the current sheriff, Rafael Washington, who you heard me mention many times. This is him. This is him, Sheriff Rafael Washington. You can go on my Facebook page under my real name, Frank Wood, because I ain't scared to tell nobody who I am and what I'm about. Like I said, this is my YouTube channel, just keeping it real, at Wood Dog 4868. You can look up the videos and stuff that I have on this sheriff right here that needs to go. And I'm going to give you some further information right here, right now. All right. Sheriff Rafael Washington doesn't do nothing but surround himself with unsavory people in the community. He associates with known felons, violating his own department's policy on hanging out and associating with known felons. Okay? He's been sued for sexual harassment. He's been accused of misconduct against mostly women in the community, per a civil lawsuit that was filed against him in 2017. That video is on my YouTube page and my Facebook page under Frank Wood. It's dated January 5th, 2024. You know, where I read all the documents and line by line on that lawsuit filing against him. Now, Sheriff Rafael Washington, I feel, is a has-been. You know, he had his shot and he messed it up. But he continues to hang around and surround himself with known convicted felons. Namely, Rick Wershey. Everybody remembers Rick Wershey. Who is Rick Wershey? White boy Rick. Rick Wershey served over 30 years in prison for selling narcotics, and more importantly, the man was a snitch, snitching and telling on people for his own personal gain, trying to deflect what was going on with him. Okay, I'm not about that non-snitching stuff, but when you tell on people for personal gain, you're dirty and low down. Just deal with what's going on with you. Don't worry about nobody else. But he associated with this guy. They sat with him. They ate with him. Matter of fact, someone advised me, told me that the current undersheriff, Mike Jafer, was at a Detroit Lions football game with the man. He is a known convicted felon. Anybody who associates with Rick Wershey, you are associating with a known felon. Yes, you are. And they hired the man's daughter about a year ago to be a Wayne County deputy working at the jail. She felt so entitled that she couldn't adhere to any of the policies and the rules governing her behavior and work performance at work. So she just abruptly resigned because the entitlement that she felt from her father didn't work for her very well. Go figure that. Now, in addition to that, Sheriff Rafael Washington another convicted felon, Daryl Woods. I have a video on him on my page about murderers on the Detroit Police Commission. Once again, this is Mr. Daryl Woods Jr. He is a current convicted felon. He was a convicted of murder, and that's still on his record. He had his sentence commuted by Governor Snyder, and he was able to get out for being a good guy locked up. Okay, go figure that. But this man right here currently sits on the Detroit Police Commission, and he was appointed to that position by Mayor Mike Duggan. Okay. He was sworn in as a chaplain for the Wayne County Sheriff's Department by the current Sheriff Rafael Washington, who's looking for your vote in August to be sheriff to retain his position. Sheriff Rafael Washington is running for sheriff, and he's hanging around people like white boy Rick, hired his daughter to work in the jail. He's a convicted felon. Just because he got out, he's still a convicted felon. And he's associating with Daryl Woods Jr., who is a convicted murderer in the state of Michigan. He is a convicted murderer. Okay? And he had his sentence commuted. That means he just got out. He didn't get pardoned by the governor, so his record still is on the record. He can't expunge murder convictions. And Rafael Washington gave him a chaplain sheriff's badge and ID to walk in and out of the sheriff jail facilities anytime he wants to, violating his own departmental policy again on associating with known felons. Now, you got Mr. Ronald Johnson. Now, this is a good one. Mr. Ronald Johnson was a chief with the Detroit Public Schools. Yes, Ronald Johnson. He was the police chief of the Detroit Public School. Now, he's not convicted of anything, but he has a current sexual harassment lawsuit against him and his behavior of him and his fellow chiefs of the Detroit Public Schools against a female named Miss Mays. It was on Fox 2 the other day, to the tune of $1 million. And what does Rafael Washington do? He deputizes him, giving him police powers, a sheriff badge, ID, and he is currently the so-called chief of the executive security at sheriff headquarters at Woodward and Hancock, meaning that he drives this man, drives Rafael Washington around because they both used to work on the Detroit Police Department together. You see that connection? All these broken toys from Detroit end up at the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, and they know nothing about the department. And that's why they have staff shortages, this jail labor plantation overtime where officers have to get FMLA and doctor's notes just to get off work and go home and sleep and be with their families. Mr. Ronald Johnson is also was one of the deputies who went out to a former reservist's house and refused to leave his property after being told to do so twice, driving on the man's grass, chipping his driveway with the cars. And he is currently being sued along with some other chiefs from the Detroit Public Schools for sexual harassment. Telling Miss Mays, how many officers are you getting down with on the job? How many, what do you got some gold down there? Talking about some gold down there. Yeah, this is him. And he currently works directly for Sheriff Rafael Washington. And he only answers to Sheriff Rafael Washington. And he is currently on his staff right now. Rafael Washington surrounds himself with some of the most unsavory people in the community, and he's running for Wayne County Sheriff. Give me a break. Mark Zarkin, a business owner from outside of Wayne County. You see that uniform he's wearing? Look like a made-up SWAT potato. And the Honorable Sheriff Benny Napoleon kicked him off of the Sheriff Reserve Program because he was on the Michigan Sex Offender Registry for over 10 years. Now, how he got off of that registry, I don't know, but it was some legal loophole that he was able to do. And Rafael Washington waits till the Honorable Sheriff Benny Napoleon died to bring this man back in the fold, give him another badge, another police ID of the Sheriff Reserves Program. Where's the honor in a department or an agency or a department, the Sheriff's Department, where you have former convicted felons in it and they all got badges? All right. Then you have Robert Dunlap. Robert Dunlap is another ex-Detroit police officer, another broken toy that came from Detroit when Benny Napoleon was alive. He brought him over to be the chief of the jails and courts and can't run the jails and the courts with all that plantation overtime, understaffing at the courts, forcing the county to hire a security firm to come in and help out the deputies for staffing to protect the judges and the public. So he's just getting a check to do nothing. But just like Ronald Johnson, who's being sued, Rafael Washington, who was sued for sexual harassment, this man received, when he was a Detroit police officer, he in 2005, 2006, he ordered deputies to illegally stop and detain a love interest that didn't want him anymore. These are the people that the current sheriff, Rafael Washington, surrounds himself with, and he wants to be the sheriff in 2024, August. Don't vote for this guy. And Robert Dunlap is a clown, just like the rest of them. All right. I had to print out these pictures so you knew exactly who I was talking about. And for that Sheriff Rafael Washington, I got some questions for you, sir. And citizens of Detroit and citizens of the entire county of Wayne, listen up. This is what I say to Sheriff Rafael Washington, who's been trying to shut me down, doing little podcast interviews with various people and trying to talk about his opponent, Miss Joan Merriweather, because he doesn't like having a woman challenge him for anything. Okay, Mr. Rafael Washington, this is what I'm going to say to you, sir, when you trying to discredit me. I did over 30 years with the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, and I'm now retired. And your opponent, Mrs. Joan Merriweather, is retired in good standing as well. And this is what I got to say when you trying to say, oh, yeah, they got some disciplinary records. What are you talking about? What kind of disciplinary records are you talking about? What are you prepared to release to the public out of files that information can only be obtained through a court order? Yeah, I was written up as a young deputy. Hey, who don't get written up for something? You know, a person with a clean slate their whole career, people have jobs bragging about they never been written up for anything. Those kind of people make me suspect. But this is what I got to say for you, Mr. Rafael Washington. I never had to outsource a security company to come in and help run my department because I couldn't recruit and staff my department policies and staff my facilities right. I never grabbed a woman's buttocks at work and was disciplined by it, allegedly, by the current undersheriff Daniel Fannis at that time. And I do say allegedly when I say these things because the investigations were shut down by the current sheriff at that time of Raphael Washington's behavior by the late Sheriff Benny Napoleon. And why did he do that? Because he was trying to save face of the department. He was trying to save himself and the department from embarrassment from the behavior of Raphael Washington. He was accused of grabbing the buttocks of the undersheriff's secretary. And he was ultimately transferred for that, but he allegedly, like I said, allegedly did it. Then why was he transferred? Allegedly. Okay. I was never sued for sexual harassment, Raphael Washington, to almost the tune of $100,000. I was never stopped by the Southfield Police Department for peeping in the windows of my ex-wife. I was never stopped for that. I didn't lie to the Southfield police. And then they had a tracking dog track his scent right to the window that he was peeping in and all that good stuff. It's on a news report on my Facebook page under Frank Wood about how he lied to Southfield. They knew he was lying. I was never accused of asking a female in a police station to bend over so I could see her panties. I was never accused of that stuff, Mr. Raphael Washington. I didn't avoid coming to work for almost 2 months at the height of COVID-19 because I was still working at that time. And police, fire, and EMS could not stay home per the governor's order. We had to report to work. And Raphael Washington was missing in action for almost 2 months. The union president, Mr. Reginald Crawford, was looking for him. We were looking for him from the union. Nobody was really asking any questions where he was during the height of COVID, because at that time, you know, Benny Napoleon was very sick and ill during the first part of 2020. So nobody was really asking about his whereabouts. I know I didn't see him. He didn't. I would go to the jails and see some of my friends because I was at the courts, and I didn't see him there. You know, when chiefs and high ranking individuals are not around, you notice that. But I was never accused of missing work, you know, during COVID. Everybody was scared, you know, and I was never accused of asking a woman at a Christmas party that he was interviewed on, and that whole expose is on my Facebook page about how he was being interviewed, and he kept saying no, no, no by the investigator. He was a lieutenant at that time. Now he's a commander at the jail. Um, he was in charge of internal affairs at that time, and it wasn't that Lion Reed Shackerbar who likes to suck on liquor bottles, because he gets pulled over all the time for drunk driving too. But nothing ever happened, you know. I didn't get demoted. Now, this is very crucial. Sheriff Rafael Washington crows about his relationship with the late great Sheriff Benny Napoleon. Okay, he says in his speeches, when I hear him out in the community talking about, I retired on a Thursday or Friday and I went over to the sheriff's department and worked for Benny Napoleon, you know, that following week. And he was my protege. Well, why did your friend Benny Napoleon have to demote you? You came in as a 1-star chief. You ended up with 2 stars on your collar. Your behavior caused Benny Napoleon to demote you, meaning he had to take one of those stars off of your collar, Raphael Washington, for your behavior, from what I get from the behavior of the alleged butt cheeks grabbing of the undersheriff's secretary and a few other issues. So this friend that you talking about, you embarrassed him. You was brought over from the Detroit Police Department to the Sheriff's Department by the late great Sheriff Benny Napoleon to assist him, and you did nothing but hurt Benny. You forced Benny to deal with you on more than one occasion. You were a high-ranking individual with the Sheriff's Department, and your behavior caused Benny Napoleon to demote you. That's something that you never talk about. I was never demoted when I was with the Sheriff's Department, but you were, Rafael Washington, who wants to be the sheriff in August of 2024. And I got some questions for you too. When I get ready to close this video out, we at 25 minutes. I'm gonna shut this down very quickly. Why does Rafael Washington associate with known felons like White Boy Wick, Kwame Kilpatrick, Mark Zargan, and Robert Davis? Robert Davis was went to federal prison for stealing from the city of Highland Park. Why does Rafael Washington feel the need to go off and curse out his female staff, raising his voice, pounding on the table like a child? Why does Rafael Washington not show up at court facilities and jails that he crows about being in charge of? Why? Why is Rafael Washington using non-union, non-certified reserve officers to offset union deputies? Why is he doing that? If Rafael Washington is running for sheriff this year, then why is he copying and emulating everything that his opponent, Joan Merriweather, does? You know, he's following around trying to copy what she does. Why is that? Does he feel threatened by Miss Joan Merriweather? He should be, because she has clean hands. All these issues that I spoke on Rafael Washington, Joan Merriweather doesn't have those issues. And she is running against this dirty, lying, dishonest cop, Rafael Washington, for sheriff this year. Remember that name when you step in that voting booth. Joan Merriweather for Wayne County Sheriff. Why does Rafael Washington avoid any questions about sexual harassment in a department? And why was he sued for it? I already told you. You know, when he's out in the community, he's not out in the community with certified deputies. He's out with those businessmen and those fake wannabe cops out here trying to say that he can be ready for any emergency that pops up in Wayne County. These all these men, most of them are in their 60s. We all know that police work is a young man's game. That's why after 30 years, I had to bounce. I say, hey, I'm not going into my 60s being a cop. It's just not happening. You know, let the young bucks have it. But remember, the questions that I just read off to you, he's not going to say anything about them. He's not going to answer those questions. But he always wants to talk about his legacy and his memory of his friend, the late Sheriff Benny Napoleon, that we all loved. And when he died, you know, all Rafael Washington did was bring back all the people that Sheriff Benny Napoleon kicked out of the Sheriff's Department and the reserve program because they were unsavory for the department. And it was a shame that the late Sheriff Benny Napoleon had to keep covering for Rafael Washington over and over again. The woman that's standing next to him is the best candidate that's going to do it. And I'm telling the truth. I've always told the truth. Now he can't discredit me, you know, because I said what I said, and I stand by what I said. And anything that was alleged, it's alleged because it forced the late Sheriff Benny Napoleon to shut it down when he should have. Like, quite frankly, he should have sent some of this stuff over to the prosecutor's office, especially when you grabbing women's backsides in the workplace, allegedly. But that lawsuit that was filed in 2017, you know, it got settled by the county because they didn't want all the salacious details. but the salacious details of that lawsuit that Rafael Washington was sued on is on my Facebook page. And I read the lawsuit filing line by line. In the pages, you can read them for yourself on my Facebook page under Frank Wood. Just scroll down to lawsuit documents. This guy, make these days that he's wearing that cap and those stars on his collar, let them be his last days. And I stuck to my 30 minutes. This is the Wood Dog, and I'm just keeping it real at Wood Dog 4868. Now, with my last thing I'm going to say before I leave here, I saw something on a phrase, and I'm gonna use it for myself. A lie will ride with anybody, but the truth rides alone. I want to thank everybody for listening. This is the Wood Dog. Thank you, and I'm out.